Flow Unleashed.
How much do you value the manner in which you talk to yourself? Do you know why peak performance experts suggest that your self-relationship is the most critical aspect to sustainable peak performance? Welcome to Flow Unleashed. I'm Dr. Cameron Norsworthy, scientist and high-performance coach to multiple world champions. In this show, we unpack key insights on specific topics so that you are kept up to date with the latest science and practice of human performance. Your self-relationship impacts how you see yourself, how you interact with others, and how we allow ourselves to perform. Anyone who struggles with self-criticism knows how debilitating life can be. So what is our self-relationship? And how do we interact with it in an optimal manner? In its simplest term, a self-relationship is exactly what it sounds like. A relationship you have with yourself. It is the culmination of how you lead yourself, treat yourself, talk to yourself, and the decisions you make for yourself, and the feelings you have about yourself. For example, when growing up, I was so hard on myself. I was a 14-year-old boy, living away from home, sweating, competing 3 hours a day to become the next best tennis player. And whilst many may have described me as an example for many other kids, in regard to my self-relationship, this could not be further from the truth. Every time I made a mistake, I berated my failure with criticism and disgust, and told myself, I'm such an idiot. Whilst the high standards I held weren't problematic, the way I related to myself to try and achieve these high standards was destructive. As a result of this suboptimal relationship with myself, I felt shame, anger, even fear to try again. My bottled frustration would distract my thinking, and the continued self-criticism only chipped away at my confidence. Being critical of yourself will affect your confidence, self-worth, self-esteem, and foster doubt in your thinking. At times, it can make you avoid the challenges in your life. It can even result in isolating yourself from friends and family. An unhelpful self-relationship will ultimately hold you back, and over time have lasting effects on your mental health. Whereas a positive self-relationship can foster your self-efficacy, self-worth, and support you to embracing the challenges in your life. It can help you to be resilient, confident, energetic, and see opportunities in every situation. One person who has spent a lifetime helping others improve the relationship they have with themselves is John Hendry. John has been awarded the Order of Australian Medal for his role in education. John has implemented relationship reparation programs into numerous corporations and schools, most notably developing positive education in Geelong Grammar School in Australia. John is widely regarded as one of Australia's most valued educational keynotes.
Flow Unleashed.
Welcome, John.
Thanks, Cameron.
So, for what reason is your message so important?
My message to all who are looking to try and get into flow is that you have to understand the role of forgiveness in actually getting there. There's absolutely no way, and it's been confirmed again this morning with my conversation with Kathy Freeman, there is absolutely no way that you can be actually performing at your best if you don't give yourself a break, because at any moment you will be tested and you will slip. You will find that your absolute focus that is needed to be in flow is inhibited in one way or other by a thought or someone else's thought. So it's what I call grey noise as much as white noise. What's going on in your mind at the moment and what is being said to you outside. If you don't manage that, give yourself a break, it will slowly irritate and dominate you and will destroy your path to flow. And if you are in flow, you have to really be careful because you can lose that critical focus that is needed for you to be performing at your best. So forgiveness is really critical. And to even get to flow, you have to give yourself a break when you are preparing and putting all the conditions in place, because we are emotional beings and we tend to drift too readily with a dislocation in our emotions.
So how did you get into this field?
I probably got into the field or became aware of it when I was about 16 or 17 years old. I stammered very badly as a child, and emotionally that was really critical in me actually overcoming it. And I was 6 years old. I had to do speech therapy for the next 7 years, and the speech therapist was very wise. The only two things she did was to teach me to meditate and to sing. The meditation was so that I would be aware of my physical state, because that's how our brain works. Our brain actually picks up after our body has registered an emotion. So an example is when we're angry, we get hot under the collar. Our temperature changes. And when we're really afraid, we go cold. We have many sayings. So I was taught just to become aware of your body. Once I'm aware of it, then I've realized it, then I can actually do something about it. So I was being inhibited in what I could achieve by emotionally not understanding what was going on. And it is a matter of regulation and co-regulation of emotion. And talking to Kathy Freeman this morning, she had a similar circumstance. It wasn't as debilitating as my stammer. So I became very interested. And then I thought, hang on a minute, why can't everyone perform at their best? Because I was looking at people I was playing, by this stage, elite sport with, and being coached by coaches who were coaching in the field that I was particularly interested in and loved playing, which was cricket. I was being coached by people who were coaching Australia, were coaching Victoria, and I was looking at players I was playing with or against, and I didn't think they were playing as well as they could because I'd seen them. And so I was trying to work out, how could you get to your best? And so I'd done a lot of research by this, and I'd got hold of Cheng Set-Me-High and understood what flow was, but how to get there. And this is where meditation was really important. I believe that meditation for me is allowing you to focus on one particular task, and that's what you need to do when you're in flow. All other things around that will still be there, but you have to quieten them so that they don't interfere with what you're doing. So as you're climbing, skiing, running, batting, playing tennis or whatever, if you're not fully focused, then your attention is drawn elsewhere and flow disappears. But practice does make perfect. After a time, then people can, by collecting, say, 2, 3 or 4 precursors to actually getting into flow, if they can tick those off, then they've given themselves a real chance to get into flow. So I became interested, Cameron, when I was just a boy, really, and I have pursued it both academically and both my great loves, which is teaching and coaching sport. I've been able to enable others to get into flow, and I've been able to get teams into flow and classes into flow, which is really quite interesting. And at some stage, I'd love to explain to all how you could actually do that, because flow is no different to any other activity, because contagion actually reaches into flow, which is just fabulous. But it's pretty easily destroyed as well.
Listening to our self-talk can be a wonderful window to understanding how we really treat ourselves. Often we may think we respect ourselves and treat ourselves well, but when experiencing failure, our self-talk can highlight how we truly treat ourselves. Do we tell ourselves to stop being such an idiot? Or direct our thinking to identify the learning and focus on what's coming next? We can also identify if we have an unhealthy self-relationship, if we display a repetitive fear of failure, perfectionism, avoidance to self-care, a neglect of personal needs, negative self-talk, self-sabotaging behaviours, or find ourselves berating our own actions. It can also be obvious as we allow toxic or even abusive relationships to exist in our lives. If we have the difficulty to say no, if we have problems with overcommitting, allow anxiety to affect our lives, have bad sleep, if we continuously compare ourselves to others in an unfavourable way, or in a superior way, or if we need external affirmation to feel good about ourselves. How does the relationship we have with ourselves underpin the very limits of how we can perform? Why is the relationship we have with ourselves so important?
A quality relationship, and I've looked at relationship studies worldwide, about 90% of them are pretty superficial and not that significant. But there's the best research on what is a quality relationship comes from Professor Kim Cameron in Michigan University. He talks about what is a virtuous institution. A relationship is that. So the first and critical thing is trust. So what is trust? And trust is when you give yourself totally to the task you're taking on. So if it's in a relationship, then to the person you're in a relationship. If it's in a task you're doing, then you actually give yourself totally to that task. And so if it's management or if it's a sport or whatever it is, you become vulnerable. Trust is the thing that allows you to actually feel as if you can. The second one is forgiveness. And forgiveness is really critical. And the easiest way to explain forgiveness in a relational sense is to just look at the word forgive. It's made up of two words, for and give. If you take the for off the front and put it at the back, you give for the task, you give for the team, you give for yourself, you give for the class, whatever you give for the... We've all read a page of a novel and at the end of it wondered what it was and our attention was drawn away from it. So we have to go back and read it again. So at that stage, we can become destructive of ourselves and not be generous. So forgiveness is the thing that enables us to stay on task. The third is integrity. And integrity is that you give morally to do the right thing. Your intention is to be at your best, to give the right thing at that one time. And I base that on two philosophical underpinnings. The first one is the Hippocratic Oath, first do no harm. And the second is the Golden Rule. Apply that to yourself. For God's sake, don't harm yourself. Don't give yourself a hard time. Give yourself a break. Get back on task. And don't wound yourself by saying, oh, it's just me. So these are critical things for anyone in business, in sport, anything they're doing, in a relationship. It's unbelievably critical. So the intention to do the right thing, to be moral in your behaviour is unbelievably important. The next one is hope. And I define resilience and what we want. A person who is in flow is secure, and that means they're resilient. They can handle the slips that happen in that moment and they can handle the mistakes, because for a person who's resilient, the last thing that disappears, if it ever disappears, is hope. The first thing that disappears for a person who is not resilient is hope. They give up. They move on. I can't do this. So this is really, really important for flow. Unbelievably important. Hope is the thing that actually enables you. And all these things are giving. So you're giving hope to yourself. Unbelievably important. The next and final element of a quality relation, according to Professor Kim Cameron, and I agree with him and I've spoken to him about it, is compassion. And compassion is empathy, action through care. So a narcissist is quite empathic. We all have mirror neurons. So if you're sad and I'm a narcissist and I'm looking at you, I know immediately you're sad, but damn it, it's your business, not mine. Whereas if I'm compassionate, I would say, Cameron, are you okay? Now, this is with a relationship with others or coaching someone, or you've got them in a team, you're managing them and so forth. This is really important. However, the fundamental relationship you have before you can have a worthwhile quality relationship with someone else is with yourself. So are you trustworthy? Do you trust yourself? Always. So when you go to the wicket, when you go to the face of a mountain, when you get on a slope, whatever it might be, do you trust your judgment? And if you are a bit windy, then it's going to be a bit difficult. Do you give yourself a break when perhaps you make a wrong turn or a misjudgment? Is your intention always to perform at your best? Do you take shortcuts, or are you committed, intending to do your best? Are you a hopeful person? Do you look for the sunny days? Do you believe it is possible? Are you resilient? Is hope going to be there for the entire time, or is it just going to fall away? And the last one, do you look after yourself? In other words, do you prepare yourself well to perform at your best? Do you practice seriously? Do you eat well? Do you sleep well? Exercise. One of the really interesting things about a resilient person is that other people judge them as worthy. Now, if you're not judged as worthy by other people, that irritates your self-worth. And in the end, you slide pretty quickly back to not being resilient. So I've traced the life course of a person who's resilient and a person who's not resilient. This goes back to John Bowlby's work on attachment and security. People who get into flow have a sense of a secure attachment. They believe they can. And this is critically important. So a relationship with yourself, which was your question, is fundamental to anyone who walks to the crease, who goes onto the tennis court, who runs a board meeting, who creates a relationship. These things are fundamentally important. If they don't exist, forget about flow, you're not going to get there.
You talk about that security or secure attachment. How does that add friction, or how would the insecurity add friction for that trust?
A secure person, and this is all the research from Bowlby and Main and many, many others, probably Dan Siegel, Sue Johnson and others, all very simply, a secure person can trust themselves and trust others, and in trusting themselves, they can trust their judgment. An insecure person does not trust themselves. And unfortunately, an insecure person is not trusted by others either, and they don't trust others. So I know, this doesn't mean that these people still live their lives in relationships. They still have a relationship with others, but they form a relationship on getting a benefit rather than giving a benefit, taking value rather than giving value. And this is really, really, when you're looking at trying to get and in any team, you will have a number of people who are insecure. So this is something that's very important to get a team into flow. What you have to do is make it unbelievably safe for them. So at that one moment in this team, they're always safe. And the way to do that is to take the secure members of the team and make sure that they don't have power over these other insecure people, but they have power with. So they collaborate rather than compete with. And this is unbelievably important. And in sport in particular, our coaches don't know this. In the end, a lot of these insecure people are really able. They can serve well. They've got great backhands. They can play the hook shot. They can climb mountains and so forth. They're intelligent. It's just that they lack that sense of worth that a secure person has. So what we have to do is create a consolidated, in the moment, sense of worth for them. Once they leave the team or run off the pitch or whatever, it'll disappear. So our object as a manager of a team or coach of a team, whether it be on a sporting field or in a boardroom or wherever, it doesn't matter, is to ensure that in the moment of greatest challenge, every member of that team is safe. If it's safe, they'll feel secure. They will then, in that moment, feel as if they are giving and not taking. And that's critically important in an individual sense and critically important in a team sense if you're going to perform at your best, if you're going to reach flow and stay there while the task is before you.
Really interesting. Certainly, something I can relate to both in sport and also with my own speaking abilities. Like yourself saying earlier, I used to stutter as a child and as a young adult as well. And I always had that horrible insecurity, that fear of speaking and what will other people be thinking of me. And my insecurities led a lot of that thinking, which cannibalized my attentional bandwidth and made everything so much more difficult. And it wasn't until I had that personal safety that it doesn't matter what happens. I'm still going to love myself. I'm still going to be the person that I'm proud of, that I could then, I guess, have that personal agility to be able to change things.
Yes, and what is really important is your sense of self-worth is determined not only by your health and well-being. Your health and well-being is critical. So for a resilient person, diet, exercise and sleep are really important. Resilience has three major components. The second is psychological, which is how do I feel about myself? Because that's all psychologists do. They try to lift you back to feeling good about yourself in the context in which they find you. And so do doctors in health. So this is important. The third one is, what do other people think about me? This is a sociological component to it. And if I think I'm terrific, I exercise well and the whole lot, but if everyone else doesn't think I'm terrific, within a moment, my self-esteem, I don't like the word, my self-efficacy is diminished, and it doesn't take long, especially for a person who's insecure, to actually agree with these people who are judging them as not being up to standard. A secure person is prepared to take that on and say, no, hang on a minute, give me a chance here. I can do this. But a secure person will say, yep, you've confirmed for me. So we have a confirmation bias type circumstance. So all these are, we can't look at trying to get into flow without understanding in a deep-seated way how circumstance can, for many, make it incredibly difficult.
So what I'm hearing is the importance of our self-relationship. That relationship we have with ourself enables our performance. And if we have the trust in ourselves, we can deliver. If we have the forgiveness, we can give for our future performance. If we have integrity and hope, we can be resilient and allow our best to shine. And if we can be compassionate with ourselves, then we have that agility, and self-worth is allowed to flourish, which allows us to be more secure, which allows us to get less distracted. In knowing that, how do we do that practically? Like, how did you do that practically with yourself and your stammering, or with a sports team, or with an organization?
All right. You have to get to know yourself very well, and you have to accept that we're not going to be brilliant at everything we turn to, that we have likes and dislikes, that sometimes we have luck is on our side and we're successful and we can build on that, and sometimes luck is not there. And I learned this through stammering. The two letters that bowled me over were S and N. when I ask them to say the letter S, you squeeze air out between your tongue and the roof of your mouth, and N, your tongue goes to the roof. My tongue wouldn't know. I couldn't say no. So I had to spend a lot of time learning to trust myself with a belief that I could do it rather than I couldn't. And this is where meditation became very important. I had to become more aware that, in fact, when I was angry, and we all fall into this category, we all have a whole range of emotions moment to moment. What we have to do is recognize them and then deal with them in a constructive way. So we need to regulate them. And so I had to recognize when I was coming up to saying no, I had to recognize that this was going to be a bit of a challenge for me, but not become anxious, because if I'm anxious, then I will stuff it up. So I had to become more confident and more confident. And this is where practice is really important. And this is where singing was important, because singing actually, you're singing on a note rather than a language, rather than saying something. And it was so often, if you ask athletes and so forth, when they're performing, often they have a tune or a song that they go to because previously it proved it was successful. This is really an interesting thing. I ask people, and elite sportsmen and kids in class and managers and so forth, what do you like at your best? Write me a paragraph of what you like at, only a paragraph, but I want to know 3 or 4 things that you think are absolutely the precursors of that. What 4 things do you have to have in order for you to be at your best? They can be nonsense, really. This is really important. They can be nonsense. And it might be, I put my left boot on first, or, I've got to have the same breakfast, or if I don't have a good night's sleep, I can't perform at my best, and so on. And this is really, really, critical. So this is something that all coaches, all managers could do. The information is just gold. Often, if a person's not performing at your best, you can visit those 4 precursors and see whether they're in order. And if they're not, or if they are in order, is there something else that's important? This enables people to move from, I don't know whether I can. Yes, I can. So it moves them to a set of controlled, not overconfident, but confident that they can. And that's critically important for performance.
Yeah, and I love the idea of diagnosing through the words and the choices of the individual, helping them to find their precursors and helping them to sort of become more self-aware of what's important.
It's critical, Cameron, it's critical. And this is a very simple task, and I've done it for years with kids learning to play something, kids learning to ride a bike, through to opening batting for the state. Kids in class and teachers going in to teach. Do they feel confident? And if you allow resentment, I don't know whether I can, which is really a form of resentment, to rule, then you'll underperform. And Hazel said that when we were in Bali. The question is that if you're overconfident, you'll stuff it up anyway. It's this narrow channel that we've talked about, the high performance channel. And this is the Yerkes and Dodson stuff on stress performance model. The whole, Dacey and Ryan's self-evaluation type stuff. All these things show that this is really important. And Cheng sent me high. Looked at it really closely. It's not just one thing. It's if you like, a consilience circumstance where all things come together. And once you know all these sorts of things coming together, then as a coach or a manager or a teacher or whatever, or as an individual, then you can actually overcome it. Laurie Peckham, who held the world high jump record, he says, for about 6 hours, an Olympian for Australia, he said the most difficult thing was he had to keep doubt at bay. He had to keep doubt out of the way. And it was continually presenting itself. So you have to have a strength of mind to keep it at bay. And Kathy said that this morning. She was talking about it's a spiritual experience, seeking a sense of peace. When she was running to get to a flow state, she said it was almost transcendent to get there and to stay there. And she said it brought such joy. Just to run was a joy. And she's like me. She pats her mother on the back. You know, just go for a run, Kathy. Just go for a run. She's 5 and 6. And just get out, run. And there have been stories over the past, you know, all the time of people who get a sense of great enjoyment out of performing at their best. But my concern was that people undervalued what they could achieve, and that's why I wanted to do all the sorts of things that I've done, Cameron.
You know, why do we have to keep doubt at bay? You know, I think everyone can relate to that comment, right? We've been in a situation and it's almost like we have to hold up the fort and keep the fortress strong and don't allow doubt in through the drawbridge. Is it the more secure we are, the less doubt we have?
Well, that's true. However, doubt is really it's a negative emotion. And let me say, to be in flow, you need about one negative emotion to about 3 or 4 or 5 positive emotions. The reason you need that doubt is that it keeps you on task. The 4 or 5 positives can make you become a little careless rather than careful. So doubt will always be there, but don't be a doubting Thomas. Recognize what it is and what its purpose is. Its purpose is to keep us just on task. To the acute awareness that we need and the engagement that we need is really tied to our capacity to believe in ourselves.
And why do you say doubt will always be there?
Oh, because it's one of the things that the reptilian brain works on. It keeps us alive. It keeps us alert to danger and so forth. So we can't scrub it away totally. It'll always be there. It's the thing that prompts us to pay attention to a particular task. And we can feel it. When you walk into a room, you can feel whether or not you're safe or not, even if you are a very secure person. This is a place, got to be more careful here. And that alone is you doubt your safety. So these are just critical things. I know walking to the wicket, the face dangerous lily, I doubt it. Whoa. But then if doubt took over, I was out quickly. If fear took over, I froze. So I had to overcome the doubt. I had to believe realistically that I was playing the best fast bowler in the world at this one moment and that I had to pay acute attention or I would fail. So doubt's important.
I love the idea of using doubt, you know, often, and same with fear. We often, when it takes over our mind and our hearts, we can initially allow it to snowball and think something's wrong, there's a big problem, and we almost overreact and we create that thinking brain goes on hyper alert, creating more distracting thoughts and what if scenarios and triggering even more alarm bells.
I think what I tried to do today is to give an opportunity for people to explore themselves, to go to the relationship they have with themselves. Do they trust themselves? Do they forgive themselves when their judgment is perhaps a bit awry, or they make a mistake, or they fail? Failure is the start of learning. It's not the end of it. Failure is the start of improving. So this is really important. Is there intention to do the right thing? Don't harm yourself. You know, look after yourself. Be hopeful. Hope is the type of thing that gets you to the wicket or gets you wherever it might be. Your performance is infinitely better if you're hopeful than if you have less hope or are hopeless. And finally, care for yourself, for God's sake. It's really, really important that you believe in yourself and you're able then to get rid of the white noise that might be ultra-critical. That's unnecessarily ultra-critical. And probably the last thing I would like to say is that we work with people. We don't work against them. We have power with rather than power over. We collaborate. We don't compete. And the best piece of advice I ever had in reference to sport came from my father when I was 15 and I was going to play my first elite Premier Grade game of cricket. I was going to open the batting against Alan Thompson, who was then opening the bowling for Australia. And my father said, "John, who are you playing on Saturday?" And I said, "We were playing Fitzroy." "And who plays for Fitzroy?" And I said, "Oh, Alan Thompson, he's opening the bowling for Australia. He's really fast, Dad." And I said, "I'm competing against him." And he said, "No, you're not, John. You're not competing against him. You're playing with him. You're not playing against him. You're playing with him. He's going to do his best, and I hope you can do your best." And I've taken that in everything that I've ever done in life. I've never played against anyone in any sport that I've ever played, and I've never worked against any in a class or coaching. I'm with people. I'm not have power over. I have power with. Because you're a coach, because you're a business leader or whatever, the only reason that you have been given power, that power, is to empower others to do whatever they're doing at their best. Your whole task is to empower others. That's why you are a leader. That's why you are a coach. Why would you have someone who's a coach and a leader who wants to have power over us? We know the research, if you ask and assist, people perform infinitely better than if you tell them. So these are just critical things that most people don't even come to grips with in their life.
So what are the hallmarks of a healthy self-relationship? Most obvious is the ability to enjoy stress. When we feel distressed, it's generally because we don't feel capable of living up to the challenges in front of us. When your relationship is strong, you have less negative feelings, less self-critical thoughts, less insecurities, and overall, less compounded stress. On the contrary, when our self-relationship is compassionate and forgiving, we are more resilient. We're better able to look at failure as feedback and adversity as temporary setbacks, or even as opportunities for growth. Next is self-efficacy or confidence. When we have a strong self-relationship, we are confident in who we are and what we can do. We don't drain our psychic resources with unrealistic expectations to placate our ego, or be arrogant to try and hide an insecurity. As we develop trust in our own capabilities, we become better able to take on new challenges and become confident in being our best. Thirdly, we display empathy. Often our external world mirrors our internal world. And when we are empathetic to our own growth, we are able to see others growing too. In seeing our strengths and weaknesses and vulnerabilities, we are better able to see those in others. This empathy creates stronger connections and interactional bonds between ourselves and others. It improves our sense of belonging, increases the fulfillment of our needs to relate. When we become better able to step into someone else's shoes, we can display a higher degree of cognitive and psychological flexibility that allows us to do the same with ourselves. How did you go about changing the culture at Geelong Grammar School?
That's a very good question. It doesn't take long to change a culture. And I wanted to have people to be kinder. So what we did was wrote our policies on the basis of kindness and forgiveness. So we worked with people rather than did things to them. We enabled rather than took things away from them. We built it around a relationship with those 5 basic elements. But if you want to change a culture of a club, a business, anything, there are 2 very simple things you can do, and this will start you on the path. The first one is pick up paper. I mean that literally and figuratively. Never walk past a piece of paper. Pick it up as the leader and contagion will take over. Everyone in the team will pick it up. Don't walk past behaviour that's unbecoming. Arrest it. Don't charge people. Just arrest it. Stop it. Everyone needs to be able to understand that. That's not a difficult task to do, and it's not standing alone. It is standing alone initially. This is being an upstander, not a bystander. The second most important thing, so pick up paper, is really, really important. The second most important thing is when someone is talking to you, look them in the eye and listen effectively. Those two things will mean that you will be able to change a culture. You'll get people on side rather than offside. And not only that, that's a requirement that every leader, every coach, every teacher, every parent has to have if they are going to securely establish a culture that's going to enable rather than disable, a resilient culture, a kind and forgiving culture, rather than a non-resilient, highly competitive, pitting one against another culture.
And what are the challenges you face when endeavouring to kind of integrate this change?
People were afraid that if you move away from harming people, punishing them, that in fact they would lose control. It's the opposite. You have to have quality relationships. The best way I can explain that is that I have a very old rescue dog. The first day I got him, he was 11 years old. The first day I got him, I was sitting on the couch and I said, "How are you, Mo?" and touched him and he bit me. The most important thing, and I use this because I teach by the narrative, is what should I have done to Mosley? I could have belted him, which is the adversarial approach, hurt him. That'll stop him from doing it again. But that would mean that I would never create he would never trust me because I hurt him. I don't have that license. By law, I don't have that license anyway. So physically I can't, nor can I manipulate him and psychologically exclude him or whatever. So it took not much longer, and now we love one another, and I'm going to be very, very upset when he dies probably this year. He's 17 now. I'll be very upset. The relationship aspect of it is what we work on. So if you want to get your team to flow, you want to get yourself to flow, be kind, give yourself a break. Those two things are unbelievably critical.
Do you want to help others unleash their performance? Do you want an internationally recognised accreditation to stand out amongst the crowd? Or do you want the playbook I use every day when helping professionals to be their best? Join us at my training organisation, the Flow Centre. We are on a mission to train a fellowship of expert practitioners to work with us and help make the world a better place. And whether you want to join the Flow Centre team as a flow coach, or continue your professional leadership development, or integrate these valuable skills into your organisation and team, go to flowcentre.org today. So, John, what is the biggest obstacle that you found for people implementing these principles?
I think they doubt their capacity to do so. I don't think they feel secure, and consequently they lose hope pretty quickly. They're not resilient. They don't manage the mistakes well, so they feel perhaps I can't rather than I can, and that really gives them not a good platform to kick off from. I say, to get to flow, you have to forgive yourself because you'll make many mistakes on the way, you'll trip and so forth. Often for many people, when they make an error, hope evaporates. For people who are resilient, when they make an error, it just stimulates them to be more hopeful. So they believe they can rather than they can't. And when you're talking to people about that, sportsmen's a really good example. When they make a mistake, a sportsman who is not resilient, or a sportswoman is not resilient, it's obvious because they've made a mistake. So in a sport like I was involved in, it's cricket, they got out. And when they analyse that, they come up with, well, the bat was too heavy, or the wicket was too soft, or it was a fluke of a catch. So they're looking for blame and shame. They're looking for an explanation for failure, whereas a person who is resilient accepts that the mistake has been made And instead of looking for blame and shame, they look to analyse it more closely and to learn from the mistake, whereas the non-resilient person doesn't learn from the mistake. This cripples them, if you like, on the step ladder to flow. It just stops them from getting there. And so really simple for a coach who's looking to see if someone can actually, if they can, say, sponsor someone into flow, is when they make a mistake, is the first word that they say, yes, well, we've made the mistake, but, and but takes them back and holds them, it imprisons them where they are. They won't learn from their mistake, whereas a resilient person who can get to flow will say yes, and that releases them to investigate, to learn, and to give themselves a break rather than to punish themselves. And that's where forgiveness comes in.
Yeah, I resonate so deeply with that. And when we're secure enough, we can deal with failure in a way that's open. You know, that when we have belief, we don't need to use but. We can learn and grow and continue to find our flow. And when we are insecure, failure becomes a problem that we need to, or we feel that it's a problem.
We tend to hide. When we fail, if we're not resilient, then we go into self-protection. So it's the old brain. It's the brainstem that comes in. It's flight and fight. So we just go into self-protection. And I like to use two terms. A person who can get into flow is resilient and reasonably confident. But and the word that I use is that they prospect. Whereas a person who doesn't get into flow, they protect, not prospect. So they hold themselves, they imprison themselves in a lack of belief. And that goes back to the whole business that you must trust yourself to get to flow. You must be trustworthy. So you trust your techniques, all the things around you. And if it's a team flow, you trust your teammates and so on. Whereas a person who is not resilient, who doesn't handle mistake well, it doesn't give themselves a break, so they don't give for themselves, which is the forgiveness thing. They don't trust their own judgment, let alone they trust the judgment of someone else. So they can listen to a coach who's been there and said, look, I think you can get there, but they just don't trust that. And so this is where, you know, experience is important, but it is a matter of your self-worth.
And I love the simplicity of how we deal with failure, how an organization deals with failure, or how I might deal with failure is a really nice, simple way of assessing the relationship we have with ourselves. You know, it assesses the self-talk and the...
Absolutely. And of course, as I said, you know, Kim Cameron's work and what is a virtuous institution, what he's talking about is what is an institution that can manage failure in a constructive way, and now allowing people to be curious, to have a license, to have a go at things, to actually step towards flow and understand that they are getting there and this is going to be peak performance for them. Focus and engagement is acute, and it has to be for you to be performing at your best anyway.
Well, John, thank you so much for your time. As we do with all guests, we ask just a couple of questions. One book or film that you feel has changed your life and you want to let others know.
Yes, 12 Angry Men. It's a brilliant film. And it is a film that really is, in my opinion, it's a film where you learn to stand alone, to strongly commit yourself to a task. So if people haven't seen 12 Angry Men, and the black and white version is better than the updated colour one, go back and look at it. It's a brilliant film.
Thank you. Yeah, I've never seen it, let alone heard of it. I'm looking forward to adding that to my list.
Oh, you must add it to your list. It is an amazing film, and how one person in a most complicated and demanding circumstance can, through just sheer strength of mind, change the mind of 11 other people. to actually find the right answer rather than the convenient one.
Definitely piqued my curiosity.
The best book I've read that probably directs me to flow, and I've mentioned it to you before, is Trying Not to Try by Edward Slingerland. And if people haven't read that, then I suggest that they try to. And I've got it here with me, Cameron, and I just want to read you what Owen Flanagan, who's the James B. Duke Professor of Philosophy at Duke University, has written about it. And Flanagan was was the selected Western philosopher to go to the Dalai Lama in the year 2000, along with all neuroscientists and performance sciences and so forth. He said Edward Slingerland is one of the world's leading comparative philosophers and the foremost advocate for bridging the gulf between cognitive science and humanities. In Trying Not to Try, he reminds us that philosophy truly is a way of life, that classical Chinese philosophy offers deep insights into human flourishing, and that this classical Chinese wisdom anticipates in compelling ways what the best contemporary cognitive science reaches. This is a landmark book, clear, sparkling, and humane. And he goes on to even say that we're talking here about Wu Wei and the Force in Star Wars and so forth. He actually says that Wu Wei is more powerful than flow and tells us what it all means for getting to our best. So it was the book that I got and that was leading me into, and it confirmed just so many things that I had tried and missed out on, but thought, no, it's worth trying again, and to finally get into flow.
Yeah, it's a great book, and also highlights the kind of cognitive psychology around effortless action and flow. Fantastic book.
Time to flip the mic.
Where can we more effectively reach into the lives of just the common person with flow?
My feeling is helping everyone, first of all, identify in their lives in the small moments. So often flow is seen as this elusive state that we need to strive to achieve, and most notable for the infrequent times that are immensely powerful and we remember for a lifetime. But flow turns up every single day, in most of our lives, but we're just not apparent to it. And if we can have that kind of visibility in it, our belief around finding it, our belief about being worthy to be in an optimal space, to sort of, as Marianne Williamson talks about, not being afraid of our light, and being able to step into our light. If we can see it in the everyday example, then we can believe that we're not only capable of it, but worthy of it. And then we can kind of step into it. So a lot of when I work one-on-one with an individual, they might come to me for a specific domain, such as I'm a surgeon or I'm a leader or a sportsman, but we end up working on how they can find flow in the kitchen, on how they can find flow in their conversations with their partners. And by having that kind of day-to-day focus, I feel that really helps bring flow into the more common everyday scenario and language.
Yes, I think you're right. It's like the sun coming up and then clouds come over and the clouds go away, and all of a sudden you can actually see it. Cameron, I congratulate you on the work you're doing to try and get it out there, but I wish everyone would have a sense of, could be trustworthy of themselves and curious enough to pursue it. It's great when you get there.
Well, John, thank you so much. It's been really nice chatting with you, and I look forward to chatting again soon.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Flow Unleashed.
So how can we put John Hendry's work into action? Firstly, it is important to check in with yourself. Like any good relationship, it helps to set time aside to nurture it. Checking in to see how we are treating ourselves only needs to take a minute or so. Similar to how we would reflect on how we are treating a friend or family member. we can do the same with ourselves. Take a moment to ask, how are you really feeling? What thoughts are being sticky? And what do you keep hearing yourself say to yourself? Secondly, prioritize self-compassion. Cultivating compassion entails treating yourself with the same kindness and empathy you would offer to your best friend. Forgive yourself to give for your future capacity. And no matter how much you regret your actions, know that what you did or who you were in the past does not need to define who you are in the present. We are all perfectly imperfect. There is no escape from our own humanity. Thirdly, enable clear boundaries for yourself. Know where to draw the line with others and yourself. What behaviour or comments are unacceptable? What do you need to say no to keep yourself safe and secure? Setting boundaries might feel awkward at first, but will help to fulfill your needs and make you more trustworthy and predictable in the eyes of others. Know your values so you can say no to behaviours that will breach your value system. By defining yourself and your boundaries, you will become more confident and your self-respect will rise. Next, build self-care routines. Whether it's going to the dentist or the gym, show yourself that you care about yourself. Remind yourself that it's not selfish to take care of yourself. Rather, it is a non-negotiable that allows you to be centered and more loving and giving to others. It is important not to put other people's needs ahead of yours. Otherwise, you will not be in a good place to help them. Take time to regularly reset, recharge, and recover. It is also important to embrace your uniqueness. We are all sons of the earth, designed to be just who we are. Denying that will only self-shackle your ability and fulfillment potential. It is in embracing who we are, warts and all, that we liberate ourselves and liberate our ability to see and love others beyond their masks and insecurities. When we work to our strengths and develop a greater internal alignment, flow is more likely to occur. And lastly, be careful with the words you use when talking to yourself. They may well end up defining much more than you can imagine. If you would like to find out more about John Hendry and his work, please see the show notes. Thank you for listening to Flow Unleashed. If you enjoyed listening, please subscribe to get notified when our next episode drops. The more people that subscribe, the better I can make the show for you. Equally, please leave a review. Your review will go a long way to helping others find this pod. Until the next time, thank you for listening to Flow Unleashed.